All right, today we are diving into something huge. It's a really startling prediction about the US housing market. See, according to our source material, there's this massive imbalance between what it costs to rent and what it costs to own a home. And it's about to set off a chain reaction that could totally reshape affordable housing as we know it.
And this quote right here, this really gets to the absolute heart of the problem. For the longest time, owning a home was just a little bit more expensive than renting. That was the deal. But today, that whole ratio is completely shattered. As the source points out, owning can now cost up to 3 times more. It's a wild number.
So, whenever a basic economic rule gets stretched this far, you just know something has to give. And that's the big question, right? What does this crazy imbalance actually mean for the millions and millions of Americans who rent? That's what our source material really digs into. Okay, so first let's unpack this shift because it's fundamental. The author argues that the entire financial foundation of American housing is basically resting on a broken ratio. And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? For decades, the deal was you'd pay about a 15% premium to own your own place. Totally manageable. But today, that premium has just exploded, up to 300%. The numbers, as the author says, are just completely out of whack. So the obvious question is, well, why don't home prices just fall back to normal? And the author points to these really high baked-in costs. I mean, the average lot for a new house is $80,000 before you even break ground. Then you add construction costs, maybe $200 a square foot, and you end up with this really high floor. So there's just no easy way for those prices to come down. Okay, so if house prices are basically stuck where they are, something else in that equation has to change to bring things back into balance. And this is what leads us to the author's central prediction, a huge rent correction. And here it is. This is the prediction from the source material, laid out plain and simple. For that historic own versus rent ratio to get back to normal, the average apartment rent in the US would basically need to double from $2,000 today to a staggering $4,000 a month. So what does a $4,000 rent even look like for a regular family? Well, for a household earning the median income, that's about $80,000 a year, that's 60% of their income before taxes. Just gone, just for rent. And the author points out, for the lowest 20% of earners, they're already paying that much, if not more. Okay, but here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. The author points to one specific corner of the housing market that plays by a completely different set of economic rules, and that's mobile home parks. Understanding this part is the key to the whole thing. This number, this single number, according to the author, changes everything. About 80% of the people who live in mobile home parks own their physical homes outright. They have no mortgage. Think about that, no mortgage. So let's break down what that 80% number actually means for your monthly budget. If you're in an apartment, you're paying around $2,000 a month. But a mobile home owner, they're often just paying what's called lot rent, the fee for the piece of land their home sits on, which averages just $300 a month. That is a $1,700 difference in your pocket every single month. So you've got these two totally different worlds, right? Sky-high apartment rents on one side and these incredibly affordable mobile home lots on the other. And the author's argument is that they're about to crash right into each other. The author lays out this really simple 3-step chain reaction. First, apartment rents start climbing. Then, step 2, demand for those super affordable $300 a month mobile home lots just goes through the roof. And then step 3, the supply of those lots is totally fixed. I mean, almost no new parks have been built since the 1970s. And that brings us to, economics 101, right? It's the most basic rule there is. When you have demand that absolutely explodes, but the supply is completely stuck and cannot grow to meet it, well, what has to happen to the price?
Okay, so where does all of this leave us? Let's get to the author's final takeaways and their big predictions for what's coming next in housing.
So what's the bottom line here? Well, the author predicts that mobile home lot rents are going to go up, probably by a lot. But, and this is key, even after they go up, they'll still be the most affordable housing option out there by a mile. They also have this interesting warning that rent control could actually backfire because it might just encourage developers to tear down parks to build expensive new apartments. And crucially, this is seen as the only part of the housing market where people won't have to completely upend their finances just to keep a roof over their heads. And all of this leaves us with one final really big question to think about.
Based on the powerful economic forces laid out in this analysis, is the future of affordable housing going to be decided entirely by this collision of supply and demand? Or are there other solutions, other pathways we should be looking at? It's a massive puzzle with some really huge implications for millions of people.